Hey everybody, it's me, Undead Viking, here to take some time out of your day to tell you about this game called Far Space Foundry. Now, those of you who watched this channel and watched my videos in the past, you may have heard me from time to time when I'm talking about Euros and talking about interchangeable themes. I've said, oh, this game could have been about farming, or it could have been about pirates on the high seas, or it could have been about collecting minerals from asteroids in outer space. And this is a game about collecting minerals from asteroids in outer space. Now, I mentioned that not to denigrate the game in any way. I just found it funny that I finally had a game about that theme that I always talked about from time to time. So this is a game, as I said, about collecting minerals from outer space, but it's more about the Foundry. Yes, you do send out freighters that collect these two types of minerals. And you transport them to this foundry, however, and then you will use the processes at the foundry to, combine those minerals to create another mineral. And the ultimate goal, actually, because the game is kind of split in half, you go through the process, you and the other players, of collecting all these resources and using freighters and what have you. And then the game actually switches, and then the foundry isn't going to be about collecting those resources anymore. It isn't going to be about producing new resources. It's going to be about producing goods. That will then be worth points at the end of the game. And so it's kind of the neat process that the mechanisms of the game stay pretty much the same. There's some really cool things going on with this game. But you actually kind of have two different end goals in one. And there are rules that you can split the game up and just play the first part or just play the second part, but I haven't done that. I like the full game. I like the full atmosphere of it. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Well, actually, before I get ahead of myself, why don't I show you how to play Far Space Foundry? Like I said, there's some cool little gadgets going on that make the game kind of fun and intriguing. And then we'll come back here and I'll tell you exactly what I think of it. All right? Cool. Let's do this. All right, this is the game board for Far Space Foundry. I'm just going to quick talk about each little individual part so you know what you're looking at here. These are the two large asteroids that you'll be collecting the resources, these red and blue resources. You are going to eventually take these red crystals and you're going to turn them over and get this purple bar on the other side, because the purple ones are what you actually use to make these products. That's how you get the vast majority of your points when you play the game. These are the little shuttles that you will be using to transport these resources over into your warehouses that are over here. I set this up for 4 players, and you can see there's the 4 warehouses right in those particular locations there, and those are the different player colors as well. And then there are the couple little modules here that when you play the game, you can spend a credit to bribe once during a turn, or during a phase, I should say. There's an A phase. You can see there's A there. On the other side of this, there's a B. I'll show you that in just a little bit. But you can bribe, for 1 credit, you can bribe them to allow you to place an extra shuttle, either remove one or place one. And that's important for the mechanism of how much you get to actually move from these asteroids, or move from your warehouse to your freighters. I'll get to that, but just that's what this is for. So when you use it, you just place a credit over your player color like that to show that you've done it, so you can't do it again. And this little module here just tells you the extra actions you get depending on the spot that you activate, and I'll talk about that as well. Over here is the cantina area. This is a deck of alien pilots that you will hire, and depending on the color of the alien pilot, then you get to collect an extra freighter. You need more freighters because when the game switches over to the second half, the only stuff that you can take with you are the stuff that actually is in your freighters, because basically what you're doing is you're going to be taking these materials, bringing them to your warehouse, and then processing them, some, not all, but processing them into, like as I said, the flip side of this, processing them and then getting them into your freighter, so then you can take them to the next phase, which is like the next foundry down in space or what have you, and that's when we flip over and go to the second part of the game. So each person begins the game with a freighter that can hold 3 units of whatever. Right now you'll be collecting these materials and putting them in freighters. during the second half of the game, you will be putting these products. You're not making these products over here just yet because of the fact that you can't make those until the second half, but those are out there just so you know what it takes. So like, you know, right here, to make a battery, it takes one of these blue crystals, and then you can turns into 2 batteries, and that's, you know, and each of those would be worth 1 point. You can see that over there. So you can use that to plan your turn. So each person starts with that 1 freighter, and then they have a deck of cards, and the deck of cards has your pilots on it, and you can see there are, this pilot is a 1, 2, or 3, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, and there is this guy, the Commander X. The X stands for whatever this number is in the middle, and I'll explain how that works. At the beginning of the game, each person will roll the die and determine whoever, figure out who is going to be like the first person, and then whatever the last time the die is rolled, you leave that number in there, like so. Alright, so what happens then is that each person will take their commander card, keep that in their hand, they will shuffle up the rest of the cards, and then they will end up taking the top 2 cards, and they'll have a 3-card hand, and then you'll get to replenish that as you progress through the game. So like this is, I'm playing the brown player, and so, you know, I have a 1, 2, 3, and I have a 6, and I have my commander. And so, and the commander uses the number that's on this die when you play that card, and if you don't like that number, you can roll the die and see if you can switch it up and change it. So, but the other ones just still stay face down. Nobody can see what you have as far as your cards go. The way the game works is actually pretty neat. So, as I said, you do start with, you know, these. You already start with 2 of the blue crystals, 2 of the red crystals in your warehouse. Everybody starts with that. And so on your turn, what you will do is you will use a card. And like, so I'm going to use the 6. And so what you do then is you play the card, you say I'm using number 6, and you're going to be taking one of these shuttles, and you're going to be placing it on the 6. Now, that doesn't seem all that really cool, but if you're going first, there really isn't much else you can do. You can be concerned as far as the symbol on there, what you want to do, but right now, like, what the 6 does is, according to this symbol, I'll just pick it up and you can tell, that it's a purple symbol, and that allows you, with one of the blue crystals, it allows you to change 1 red that's in your warehouse into a purple. It's kind of nice, right? This is what you want to do. Here, and this is the mug, if you will. That means you go to the cantina, you pay a coin, and then you get to take the top 4 cards of that alien pilot deck. You pick one and you shuffle the rest in, and as long as you don't have the color of the freighter already, you get to take the top card off those freighter decks. And then finally, down here, this is like galactic trading. You trade 1 red crystal for 2 credits. So, what I've done is I've gone ahead and taken that spot. Now, I'll explain this a little bit, but because I picked 6 and I put it on 6, my shuttle capacity is 1. Now, I'll explain how that changes here in just a little bit, but because my shuttle capacity is 1, I can take 1 resource from either asteroid. Now, if I shuttle capacity more, 2, 3, or whatever, it wouldn't matter. I can only take 1. And I can't take more than what my warehouse will fill, because I'm taking from there to my warehouse. Now, alternatively, I could have said, I'm doing this, and I want to actually take things from my warehouse and put them in my freighter. Same deal. You can only take as many as you have spaces in your freighter, however. But in this case, I'm just going to say I'm taking 1. So I decide I want another red crystal, and I'm going to go ahead and I take that 1 and I put it here, this is the brown one, put it in my warehouse like so. Now if I choose to, I can take the action that is on there, which is to convert. So I'm going to take one of these blue crystals, I'm going to return it because I've used it up, and I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to flip it over and turn it into a purple I forget what these are called, like rubidium or something like that, but it's just basically, it's purple bars, purple metal basically, that you're going to be using to create these in the second part of the game. Now, there's 1 in that spot. Now you might be wondering how this shuttle capacity works. Well, in this case, if the next person went and they said, I'm going to play 6 as well, they're going to play 6, they can't, because 6 is taken. So they have to go clockwise around the wheel to the next available spot. Bam. So 7, because the fact that it went 1 and then 2, that gives them a capacity of 2. And now they're allowed, let's say it's the green player, they're allowed to take 2 resources. So that they want 2 blue crystals. And they do that like so. And then this one is they can trade 1 red, one of these, and they're going to do that. They're going to trade that 1 red one in, cash it in, and they're going to get 2 credits for doing so. Now here's where bribing to place a freighter comes in handy, because what you can do is you can, if red had a credit like that, you can bribe one. They could go, okay, well, I'm going to bribe, and I'm going to just put a freighter there. I'm not going to activate the power, but I'm just going to put a freighter there. And then I have number 6 as well. We all had number 6 for some reason. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, because they put that extra freighter down, they get to add a capacity to the shuttle, and so they get to take 4. Now, I mean, in this case, like, let's just say red had 4 spaces open, so it would actually be fortuitous for them to do that. And so then they would go, okay, well, I'm going to take 4 red minerals, and they would fill it up like so. And then, because they were actually on the spot with the mug, they would take the action of, all right, going to take the top 4 cards on the deck of these pilots, and we're going to hope we get a purple one, because the purple one has a freighter with 4 in it, more space. So we got a smuggler, 2 smugglers, an operative, and a mechanic. Now, these have special powers, and I'll go through those in just a second. But here we have both a smuggler and a mechanic, and the smuggler is good because they're actually, you can stack your resources on top of each other, and actually, so you can carry more. So we're going to take that. So this would be the red player. Let's just say the red player is sitting over here. And because they don't already have a purple freighter, they're going to go ahead and take that purple freighter. It's got a space of 4. And now they've got an extra freighter that they can fly. That is how the game works. Now the opposite is true. Like after, if we've gotten to the point now where we've converted, the brown players converted these, or a fair amount of them, and they have this open freighter. Now, if you want, you can actually then take a shuttle. You can remove the shuttles from the space foundry as well. So in this case, when you are going to be removing things from your warehouse and delivering them to your freighters, you're still going to do the same thing with your pilot deck. You're still going to be choosing a pilot that you have in your hand. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking for a spot that is unoccupied. And you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to go around the circle until you finally find a shuttle. And then once again, that's how you're going to determine your capacity. So if the board looked like this, and I had a 4, I could go playing the 4, there's no shuttle, that's 1, 5, no shuttle, that's 2, 6, there's a shuttle, that's 3. Perfect. I've got 3 open spaces, I've got 3 purple. Here I can go bam, 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 and I've delivered those to my freighter. And now when we actually get to the next phase of the game, that freighter is going to be able to deliver all of those resources to the next Foundry Beta, or B, if you will. What signifies the end of this is basically when everybody runs out of cards. Obviously, people that collect more of the alien captains are going to have more actions. But other than that, you do that until everybody runs out of cards. Nobody can do anything. And then what happens is you'll go to the second phase of the game. So what happens then, I'm actually going to have to take some of these off because everything kind of gets flipped over. You're going to flip over all of the warehouses, and the warehouses in Foundry B have only 5 spaces. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch these over quick, like so. And even though the asteroids aren't there, you do just leave them up on the board, just basically so when you do discard your minerals to create these items over here, you have a place to put them. So let's go ahead and we take all these shuttles, move them off there, flip that over, and let me just go ahead and flip this as well. So we're going to go to phase B. I do like the puzzle aspect of this. It's kind of neat. So And then this flips over to side B as well. So now, theoretically, let's just say we actually managed to get, as the brown player, we managed to get a couple other spaceships like this. So we had 2 freighters. And now we're traveling to the second part. So now this is where we will be doing the exact same thing with the shuttles. We'll be like playing our pilot cards and putting them down to try to activate and move our items back into our warehouse, and then once they're in our warehouse, using the actions that are on the board to create these items that are over here. And that's, like I said, how you get the vast majority of your points. So in this case, the special ability on this module here, this blue like circle, that's the robotic arm. That allows you to use your minerals to create the product. This charge here allows you to either charge one of your items, and all that does basically is it increases the victory points over them. But the items that you create have this blue side, and then they have a yellow side. And if you get them over the yellow, they're worth an extra victory point. If you see here, if you do that, you can just get one, and just automatically for free. But if you spend a credit, you can charge all of them that you have that happen to be in the freighter. I'm sorry, not the freighter. That happen to be in your warehouse. It should be noted that if you do have any of those items, any of the old resources still in your warehouse, those don't get charged when you charge up the products that you've created. The final portion that you have is that you can actually upgrade your freighter. Now, upgrading the freighter really doesn't do anything other than, I'll show you, it has a freighter and upgraded freighter. It just says that right there. The only reason why you do this is because the freighters that you have, they actually when they get used, they get like carbon scoring and stuff like that. That's just what they say in the rules. But mechanically wise, if you don't upgrade your freighters, you actually do lose 2 points. For every freighter you have that hasn't been upgraded, you take a hit to your victory point total at the end. So upgrading them is important and should be something that you do. Because, well, basically it's victory points technically. I mean, you just don't have to lose any. So when you create these things, like I said, I'll just take the battery one. We were talking about that one earlier. When you take the battery, you trade in the resource needed, in this case the blue crystal, and you get 2 batteries, and then you can place those in your warehouse. Note, you have to get them from your warehouse and back into your freighters for them to count, and obviously you don't want to, you have to do that because the only way you can actually spend your resources to create things, you have to have the space for that as well. Some of these will have, in this case, like a higher point total. Like this one was 5. You notice it has 2 of the purple resource to create the robot here, and it's worth 5 points, whereas the battery is only worth 1 point on the bottom there. So there is obviously having just a bunch of blue crystals is probably easier to do, but having 2 purple is tougher. So that's the whole process. But you do the exact same thing that you did before. You place your shuttle on these spots, and then you start counting, and depending on the card that you have, you count and you go around. The really cool thing about this is that you can really start messing with people, because if you even though maybe sometimes it isn't advantageous, like if you pull this particular shuttle, you're gonna make things trouble. You're making trouble for people because of the fact that you now put that open space there, and so somebody who was counting on being able to go 6, 7, 8, and then get there, now they end up stopping there. And it's one of those things too where, because of the fact that for the vast majority of the game, the numbers that they have in their hand, the cards they have in their hand, are exactly the same, with the exception of the alien commanders. And you can kind of, look and see what cards people have left in their hand and what they haven't played yet, and you can kind of use that as knowledge to have it work against them as well. So I mean, it's part of that game that, like, if you can kind of look at the other person's discard, which I don't think they've expressly said you can't. I mean, we kind of had their discards to be open knowledge, and so that's the way we've played, and so it's kind of like that game within the game of, like, trying to determine what somebody else has as far as their cards in their hand. Now, obviously, the same thing happens. You keep playing until you get done with all of your cards, and then after this second phase of the game is done, that is when you will total up all of your victory points. The victory points are as follows. Anything that's left in your warehouse that you weren't able to get out isn't going to be worth anything. Only stuff that is going to be in your freighters is actually going to be worth anything. And at most, remember, you're going to have one of each of these in the freighter you started out with. You can't have multiple of each color. So your space is fairly limited. So each Skyrite, Rubion, or Galactium token, those are the actual names. I just call them blue crystal, red crystal, and purple bars. Each one of those is worth 1 point if they happen to be on your freighter. Each product token is worth the amount that's listed on the product card. Each charged one, remember the ones on the yellow, that's worth an extra point. And each different type of item is worth 1 point. A charged and uncharged product of the same type are considered one type. So, so in each of the 3 raw materials also count as different types. So if you have a diversification, you get extra points as that as well. If you happen to have any leftover money, that's worth 1 point as well. If you have a freighter that isn't full, that is worth -2 points. So you have to also be cognizant of that. And also, remember, if you didn't upgrade your freighter, you'll lose 2 points for that as well. So, total up the total points that each person has, and then obviously whoever has the most points will win the game. Now, I was going to tell you about the different the different types of alien commanders. So let's go over those real quick. So in no particular order, this is the mechanic, as you can probably tell by the symbols down here. When you use him, not only does he get to use the ability that's on the spot they land on, but they also get to do either the purple or the robotic arm, so they can do the other process as well when you use that particular one. Let me see here. Where's a trucker? Let me find it. Okay, cool. A trucker, they get to take 1 extra thing in their shuttle. So if they have a shuttle capacity of 2, they would be 3. If a shuttle capacity of 1, it would be 2. So they get to increase it by 1. Navigators are cool. Let me find one. Navigators, this little thing backwards forward, they can actually go counterclockwise or clockwise. And remember, with all of these, you actually do roll, like, you have the die in there, and you can either take what's in there, so like it's a 1, so in this case, it'd be a 1, and maybe you don't want to do that right away, or for whatever reason, so that doesn't work, so you're going to re-roll, and hopefully you get a better number, and it's a 5, so yeah, that'd probably be a better number if you're going clockwise, so you'd start there and go around. And so, but remember, with the Navigator, you can decide to go counterclockwise if you so desire. When you use the Forger can decide if they want to. They can increase or decrease the die value of 1. And remember, in this case, you consider 1 and 8 to be an adjacent number. So if the die was an 8, you can make it a 1 if you wanted to. Or if it was a 1, you can make it an 8. So if you didn't like that, the Forger could say, you know what, I'm going to take it, but I'm going to consider it to be a 6 instead. You don't actually change it, but you can just decide to treat it as such. And then the other thing is, normally, whenever you transport things to a freighter or transport things off freighters, you can only use 1 freighter. You can't ever go, I'm going to take 1 for this one, I'm going to take 1 for that one, and so on and so forth. But when you have the operative, you can then you use multiple freighters. And the last one, as I said before, the smuggler. If I can find a smuggler again, the smuggler is the one that can stack up to 2 high the actual resources, and so then you can actually get more into your warehouse or more into your freighters by using the smuggler. And I like the alien pilots because it adds a cool little way to break the rules, and it adds like another one of those like kind of funky ways of handling things where it's like, oh, you know, it's like if I use this guy and it has a special ability and I can use it perfectly for that number and things like that, and you have those little aha moments where you feel clever, and I like feeling like that when I play a game. So, all right, well, I mean, as I said, that's all the mechanism. That's how you play the game. It takes about 20 minutes to play. Obviously, it's going to take a little longer the first time you play, but once you get the game down, it moves along really quickly, and it's a heck of a lot of fun, especially with the 2 different parts of the game that you're going to be playing. But let me tell you more about that in my conclusion. All right, that was Farspace Foundry, how to play the game. This is weird because it doesn't really match up. But when I was playing the game the first time, and like we were playing our cards, and then you have that thing where you're going around and trying to find the empty freighter bay to use your to collect your resources and how many you can get and what have you. For a really weird reason, I have no idea, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Zolkin, with the moving gears, if you will. I mean, and it was kind of one of those neat things where it wasn't a direct representation, but I really, really liked the process that the game had, where like removing the freighter and then putting the freighter down. Not only did it matter which card you played to determine like how many resources you got to collect, but also the spot on the board that you got to activate for that process. I mean, so you always had this wonderful feeling in the game where it was so rare that everything matched up perfectly. You never had that moment where it was like, I got to collect 3 resources, and I had the exact right card, so I could collect those 3, and that I could actually get to like the exact part of the board so I could activate that power. That's exactly what I needed. And so you always have this moment in this game where you have varying degrees of success with your turn. And I like that. I like, because that then leads into the tough decisions part of the game. And where you, on your turn, have to weigh the options like, well, I mean, what do I need to do this turn? Do I need to convert my resources and change the red ore into the purple? Do I need credits? Is it a situation where I need money? Because I need to hire people. So you have this like kind of weird process where you have to weigh your options in any given turn, and and every once in a while things will kind of click together, and you get that wonderful moment of like, oh, I'm pretty smart, I'm pretty clever. But then sure enough, the next turn comes and you're unable to get that feeling again. So, it goes away pretty quickly. But, and I guess that's kind of like the big part of why I've really enjoyed playing Farspace Foundry, is because each of those turns is like trying to optimize. And I like games where I have to optimize things. And I like games that don't make it easy for me to optimize things. I've said this before, I'm an exploratory gamer. I play a game until it doesn't really have anything for me. And that's not to say, I mean, I will teach a game that like I've explored fairly fully, because I enjoy watching other people kind of experience a game and like learn it, and that you see that light bulb go off behind their eyes and they start really getting excited about what's going on. But for me, after I've gotten a few plays out of the game, I can usually tell whether or not this game's going to stick with me. And thankfully, because of the fact that it is so tough to optimize each one of your turns of this game has provided a wonderful, challenging atmosphere for me, and also like it's keeping me from fully exploring it. And then as soon as you get used to one half of the game, then you switch over to the second part, and then it's like, it's kind of one of those fun games where you spend the first half kind of building yourself up, and all leading towards the second half, because that's where you start generating your points. And I like that weird seesaw. I like games where it's like, wow, I really you can find yourself playing a game like this where if you don't pay attention to what your end goal is, if you don't like look and say, okay, I need these things, this is what I need, so I can actually win the game, you can get just caught up with collecting all these resources and and that first part of the game without realizing that no, the first part is the planning stage for the second part. And I like games that do that as well. I like that kind of flip things a little bit on their ear, and give you like, I'm not gonna say it's a brand new game because the mechanisms kind of stay the same, but it does, like, you downshift on your gears, or and you got to make sure you push the clutch in, or else you get that grinding noise as you're trying to reestablish yourself. So, for all those reasons, I mean, it's just a fun game. If you are a fan of like resource collection, engine building type games, I think you're really going to like this. I think the whole process of the freighters moving around the board and finding the open spot. I mean, it's a very, I mean, I know it's not completely 100% innovative by any means, but it's a very refreshing take on, kind of a weird, strange worker placement aspect to it. I mean, it isn't technically worker placement, it's more like an action allowance or something like that. I don't know. We can probably argue terminology, but regardless, that process of the game is a lot of fun, and picking the right card in your hand and waiting for openings and things like that. It's just a great deal of now, I'm not gonna say tension, because I don't ever I didn't really ever find myself like, oh god, I hope that guy doesn't take that spot. But it is a game that would keep me on my toes, and I would like, say, okay, well, if I don't have that available to me when it comes around to my turn, then I need to have a backup plan, and that backup plan needs to have a backup plan. And and that's another one of those things that I like about games that keep me engaged and keep me watching the board, and like, because then you don't have a big long 10-minute drawn out process of trying to figure out what you want to do in your turn. You're prepared for that eventuality, and for all those reasons and more. I mean, I love the art. I mean, I realize this was a prototype, as I said, but I kind of dig the old school look to the game, and the kind of retro futuristic artistry that's inhabiting the game itself. So I mean, and I understand that or at least I think I understand that the final game will actually have crystals, for the resources and not these discs. But I actually really dug the discs. I thought that was actually really cool. And then, but like I said, every little part of this game just is visually pleasing and tactile pleasing, if that makes sense as well. So anyway, like I said, if you like futuristic theme games and resource type games, I think this is something you really want to check out. And definitely you can go to you go to Board Game Geek, or go to the Kickstarter page, and you can definitely read up more about the game and see what else it has to offer you. So as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. That was Far Space Foundry. If you have any questions about this game, by all means post those. I'll be glad to answer those to the best of my ability. Yeah. And until next time, this was Far Space Foundry. I'm Undead Viking. This is my gaming dojo. And you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.